Control! Control, son! Good morning, Ram fam. So I know this is kind of like a weird angle, like I'm probably like a little crooked, but I really need to get one of those things in my car that holds the phone so that I can record. It's been a while since we just, I kind of sat and talked to you guys before like going into work and stuff. So I just wanted to kind of like fill you guys in on what's going on. If you haven't seen the video I posted a while, like it was one of our first videos. It was like this. I'm sitting down talking to you guys and I'm telling y'all, our current situation and their situation at the time and all that. But if you haven't seen it, because you might be a little lost what I'm talking about, I'll link it down below in the description box. But yeah, so I know those of you who do know, David, wasn't really working, and with the business it just wasn't going good. So about maybe like almost 4 or 5 weeks, no, like 4 weeks ago, because it's still fairly new, that was it, you guys. The business didn't make it. David had to shut it down. He didn't have money to even move the business. Like, it just wasn't doing good at all. And my concern was his mental health. He was struggling, and he was just like, it was just hard seeing him like that, stressed out and a lot of anxiety, and just not knowing what to do, and seeing him worried and always something on his mind, and he's not present in the moment. And I was genuinely worried for him. And he had applied for a job a while back, and of course it's a process, especially for the type of job it was. There's a possibility it was going to take months, and then we did get a yes, and it was like, okay, that's a step, that's a blessing, and that's like a sign. But then of course there's the background check part, which, David doesn't have anything on his background, but with how intense the background is, it can take, it can take up to 4 months, it can take up to 7 months, like, we don't know. So that was like, okay, like, we've made it this far. The thing is, like, we're going, just on my income, and I really don't make that much where I work. So, but the whole entire time we've just kept our faith in God, and that He was always going to provide for us. And so on like a week before, like the last week of July, David gets a phone call, and he's like, they're like, hey, you passed, the first part of your background, and that allows you to at least start working, so your start date's gonna be the 31st of July. So David was so happy, and he went into this, like, going back to work and stuff with like a different mindset. And what I've noticed is, like, we've learned so much in this situation. And yes, we're so blessed that, He has this now, and it's gonna help us, and it's for the better. It is gonna take a while for us to get back on track and get, where we were, and to where we can start saving money again, and that's fine. Things take a while, that's fine. We're just happy, and I'm just happy to see that David is doing better, and that we're gonna be okay. And I always knew we would be okay, but it's like when you get something, you're like, So, and I just kind of wanted to share real quick, like, what we've learned, like, through this whole entire experience, because this lasted like a good 9 months, you guys, almost a year of whatever it was that we were going through, of this season we were going through. And a couple of days ago, I was reading the Bible verse of the day, And because of that Bible verse, I ended up looking into, the whole entire chapter that verse was in, and it was just speaking to me, and I wanted to share it because I feel like not only can it relate to us in our situation, but anyone that's going through a season. The hardest part is to totally self-surrender and totally give yourself to God and be like, you know what, God, this is, Lord, this is your life, and you're always going to provide for me, and I'm giving you 100% of me. Like, I'm still trying to do that. I give my life to the Lord, and I tell him, you know what, you're in control. I'm not gonna worry about what my next step is. I'm not gonna, stress about it. I'm gonna let you put it in front of me when the time is right. And let me try to cover the sun a little bit. I'm gonna let you put it in front of me when the time is right, and when you think I'm ready. Because that's the thing. God's timing is always right. God's timing is never late. God's timing is never too early. And we've learned so much when it comes to patience. Like, we've become so patient. And I've handled this situation with such peace. And I think because we have the Lord in our life, I have that peace. And that's what a lot of people don't understand. Like, and it's not that you don't understand. It's just you don't know. Because I didn't know, And yes, someone can tell you, but you're never going to fully know until you experience it. And it's so true, those who walk the path of the Lord, you live a life of peace. You guys, I went through these whole entire 9 months without, yes, I had my bad days. The Lord doesn't promise us, a life without, seasons. And I had my days where I was like, today's just not a great day. But I think what matters is who you turn to during that time, how you handle the situation, and that you turn to the Lord and you tell him, you know what, Lord, I give this situation to you. I give this day to you. I give my feelings to you so that you can handle it for me, because that's all he wants. And so when I was reading, it was called Life Through the Spirit, and this is just like what we've learned, through this whole entire thing. So it started off with Romans 8:5-6. Those who live according to the flesh have their minds set on what the flesh desires, but those who live in accordance with the Spirit have their minds set on what the Spirit desires. The mind governed by the flesh is death, but the mind governed by the Spirit is life at peace. So this is what I'm telling you guys, that the Lord tells us that if you walk a life with him, you will have peace. And that's what I experienced. I just had so much peace in my heart. And when David finally self-surrendered and started listening to the Lord, because it's not that he didn't fully give himself to the Lord, he did. Like, he's like, every time he would have a situation, he'd be praying to the Lord. The thing is, we are still human, you guys, and we still want to take control. And even to this day, you can still totally self-surrender, but you're gonna want to take control in some points of your life. And when you try to take control of your own life and make your own decisions and make your own choices, instead of going through a path that the Lord has for you, then that's, when you're not going to have peace. And that's exactly what was going on with David. Maybe one day he'll tell his story, because it is quite long, but pretty much, he hung on to this business because I think he wanted to. And, sometimes it can be confusing because you're like, Lord, which way do you want me to go? And sometimes you want to be like, just give me a big sign, like a literal sign in front of my face saying, do this. But that's not how the Lord works. You have to talk to him and you have to feel it. And I think that's what David was kind of struggling with. And I'm not gonna lie, like, I kind of struggled with it too. And I would just tell him, just listen to the Lord and what he tells you. And he just didn't know if he should keep going or not. But he was like, you know what, I'm just gonna keep going. Like, I don't know, I'm just gonna keep pushing. And he pushed and pushed and pushed. But I think at the end of the day, it was a decision he was making and not the one that the Lord was making, because he would continue to push, and then something else would happen, and then he would push even more, and something else would happen. And during that time, it was about like maybe a month or two that he was just doing that. That was probably the most stressful time for him, and when I really saw him change in his mentality and mental status, and that's when I really started getting worried. And I finally told him, like, are you sure this is what God is trying to tell you? Because I don't think he would want you to be like this, you know? I don't think he would do this for you. So after a while, but he had to go on this journey and figure it out himself. Yes, I can try to help guide him, but at the end of the day, he had to listen. And he had a moment, and he realized he literally had a moment to where he can go one way or the other. And if you were to ever tell his story, guys, you'd be like, wow, he totally went the other way. And we've just been blessed since then, and he's had so much peace. And that's when, like, this Bible verse is so true. Then it goes on saying, Romans 8:10-11, but if Christ is in you, then even though your body is subject to death because of sin, the Spirit gives life because of righteousness. And if the Spirit of him who raised Jesus from the dead is living in you, he who raised Christ from the dead will also give life to your mortal bodies because of his Spirit who lives in you. Romans 8:28 says, and we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose. So God has a purpose for everyone. That's why he already has our life mapped out. Like, he knows which way we should go, because it's not going to be a life of failure. It's not going to be a life of sorrow, you know. He has a purpose for us all. Even the stuff that the seasons that we go through has a purpose, whether it to be to teach us something, or to be able to teach someone else, or just to show the power of God through us so that others can believe too. So that's why it's very important that we follow his path, and we don't focus too much on the future. And yes, we can have, you know, plans and goals and stuff, and the Lord knows what our heart desires. He, you know, the Bible says, ask and you shall receive. I mean, you still ask him, and he can work it. And he already knows even before you even probably had that thought in your head that you were going to ask him that. So he knows, and he makes it work, even when you think he may not. And that's where you just got to keep having that faith in him. And then in Romans 8:31-32, what then shall we say in response to these things? If God is for us, who can be against us? He who did not spare his own son, but gave him up for us all, how will he not also, along with him, graciously give us things? So me, like, I'm a planner. Like, I like to have plan A, B, C, D, because if A fails, I'll follow on B, you know. And like I said, it's just all about totally surrendering to God, telling him, you know what, God, you're in control of my life, and I trust you. And I mean, I could just go on and on about this, but I actually have to go into work, you guys. But when I tell you, you guys, you will have so much peace in your heart and in your life. And just because you have peace doesn't mean you're not gonna have, like I said, bad days and not have stressful times, but just know who to turn to, and you will receive that peace again. Like, and I think if we didn't have the church, let me start over. And like, if we didn't have our faith, like, everything happened with perfect timing, and we'll explain all this too when one day we would like to say our testimonies. If we didn't have our faith during this time, this situation would have been, these 9 months would have been totally different. And I honestly don't think it would have been for the good. But hopefully one day we'll be able to tell you guys our stories.
Right there. Tell them, hey. Vamos, Elias. Go, go.
Go!
Go, move
Go!
on, move on.
Go, Payson! Honestly,
Stay open, Jason. Stay open. Only. Stay open. Control and take.
Control, puppy, like yesterday. Control.
Stay down there. Go,
Go, Tayson, go, pick it! Good morning, Ram Fam. It is the next day, you guys. As you can see, last night was pretty busy. We had Kayson's game. They won. I showed you guys the goal he made. He's so happy. And then we were gonna leave, but then the second team that was supposed to play, only one of the two teams showed up, so they didn't have anyone to play. And they're like, well, do y'all just want to have a game, like, just for fun? And of course the kids said yes, which is good practice. So we didn't get home till like 11:30 last night, and then I went straight to bed because I worked this morning. I woke up this morning and I had to work, and I work tomorrow morning. So